Now, Doctor, you say that there are no camps in Gombe anymore.
No.
Now, so how are these people faring within the society? It's a new environment to them, so are they settling down okay? Do they have jobs? Do the children go to school?
Now, let me start with school. You know, in Gombe, we made it a policy. The government made it a policy. Any child who walks in, or the parent walks into SEMA office, say, my child was in primary 4. Take it as granted that that is a transfer certificate. So all that SEMA would do is to forward the name of the kids to the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Education will place them in school. That's what we're doing. Now, like I said, before people were displaced from home, they were doing something. If you were a civil servant, you are still earning salary. Borno State, Yobe State still pays salaries of their civil servants who are in displacement.
Wow.
To where? To their accounts. You know, you don't walk to the bank again. At the point in time in Gombe, there were days the bank would say, no, we are dealing with people only from Yobe and Borno. So for those who were employed, and the state government pays their salary, they still earn their salaries. Do you want to keep that person and give him food on a daily basis? I don't think so.
That's not what he needs.
Now, if somebody was a farmer, and we have people who were farmers, and those are the most difficult ones to deal with, because you needed farmlands. But graciously, there are traditional rulers who offered to say, SEMA, if there are those who want to live in rural areas, and they want to farm, they can come. I think it's a two-way thing. While you are providing assistance to IDPs, you must be focused as to what you are providing. The issue of coordination was mentioned, and I think it's very important. It's not creating parallel programs. You go to some camps, and there are so many people, I'm doing this, I'm a specialist in the little finger, I'm a specialist in the thumb. But somebody has to be in charge of all they're saying. Exactly. The buck needs to end somewhere, so that if it doesn't go right, somebody must be held accountable.
Is it not a question of maybe the authorities or the agencies of government that are supposed to take charge? It's not a question of them not taking their duties seriously or being in their place that gives room for these other questionable NGOs coming in to help?
Now, maybe if we have time, we'll discuss something later. The business of disaster. Disaster is big business.
Yeah.
From those who are providing arms to Boko Haram,
absolutely,
to those who are not employed because of disaster,
yes,
to those who are contractors because of disaster, and so on. And so there are those vested interests. But then somebody's responsibility, and in the states, that is SEMA, to say our own role is not the business aspect. Our own role is purely humanitarian. I'll give you an example. If Channels was to close down today, and you all lose your jobs, would you want Channels to close down?
Channels is not closing down.
No, supposing. So supposing we don't have camps, and I'm employed because there's a camp.
Yes.
What am I going to do? So am I going to let that camp close down? We were called names in Gombe State when our camps wound up. And as soon as we opened camp, the traffic of inquiries to our office
contractors
shot up. As soon as we closed camp, it came down. Why? People living in the community is not fashionable. You cannot go and take a picture of a child who is going to primary school within Gombe Metropolis and an IDP to use to raise funds.
Exactly.
But you can take the picture of the child who is almost naked, playing in the mud in the camp, and use that to raise funds.
Yes.
How those funds are used are a different thing altogether. And I think that's where we're talking about the capacity to coordinate. We should be able to put our feet down. We have told people that in Gombe, yes, we need assistance. But if you give us poison, we will refuse to take it.
Absolutely.
Okay, the question I want to ask you has to do with what you mentioned earlier, donations. You've got donations from people. What's the truth behind some of these donations? Because sometimes state agencies might come say, we got 50 million from this person, we got 500 bags of rice and all of that. What's the truth behind it? Because if you're talking coordination, you ask the question, what are they coordinating? Is there truth behind some of these donations that are announced? Should they even be announced?
Really, the truth of the matter is, as I said, this business of disaster, this is a global phenomenon. We're not just talking Nigeria, so we need to be clear. We're not the baddies in that sense here. It's a challenge, both with UN agencies, international NGOs, all across. I mean, if you look at what happened in Haiti and the big monies that went in there, so, you know, bringing it closer to home, I always think, actually my background is I'm a fundraiser. I'm a private sector fundraiser. That's what I did. I did some of that with the UN for a long time. So I understand when you talk about the truth and the numbers and all of that. And the truth of the matter is, if you're doing the work and you're really going to do the work, for doctors, for example, someone of doctor's expertise, and for you to be able to, you have to be able to pay for that expertise. And if he's going to do a good job of coordinating, you have to be able to pay the kind of money that can make him focus on that job so he can get it done. It's the same thing in the social sector. So with us as NGOs, if you're an NGO who is serious and you know what you're doing, when you go fundraising, so for example, I'm talking to these companies.
Do you mind? We need to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue the conversation.
Sure.
Please don't go away. Still watching Sunrise from Channels Television. The phone lines would be open in a bit in case you want to contribute via phone, but keep your calls straight to the point and short. Thank you. Iya, you were saying something.
So we're just talking about truth, transparency, donations, money. And as an NGO or anybody working, you have to be accountable for the funds that you receive. Now, part of that is also before you go and receive those funds, when you make your request, you have to be clear. So for us, when we reach out and we say, okay, this is what we want to do, particularly with institutions, we say, this is the amount that's going to be spent on the project itself. This is how much administering the project is going to cost. This is how much. So for example, we have a donation, say, for 2.7 million on something. Now, 1 million might be what we're giving to people as funds to start a business. But 1.7 million, we have to pay the staff to do that. We have to pay the transport to go there. And the key thing is to be able to be transparent and say, this is the situation. I think one of the challenges also with donors is, like Doctor said, they want to go to the camp and take that picture and do this and do that. But I'm sorry, that's not a sustainable way of developing anything. You know, that's just a short-term or stopgap. Really, what people need and what we need is to be able to do that. And sometimes NGOs, I can speak for them, they're put in that position of having to create these kinds of opportunities for people to go and take pictures and show, we did this, we did that. And sometimes you as an NGO, you have to put your foot down and say, sorry, we don't work in this area. That's not the best approach, and we're not going to be able to take your funds. If that is the only thing you want to do.
You actually turn down money?
Well, because of where I came from, we used to turn down money sometimes. If it was money that either it came from a source that we thought was not in line with what we did, or
it had strings attached.
Or it had strings attached. And you do have that. I mean, sometimes you have to try and also be flexible. And where you may, okay, this may be your longer term goal. And if you feel that those funds are going to help you get to that long-term goal without compromising your principles and what you stand for, you know, we can say, okay, let's start with this, but this is where we want to go, and we hope you'll consider funding that.